Peter.
The document that you are now seeing actually dates from the year 1161, during the reign of the second Henry, when two travellers were journeying through the forest, which we would call the Sherwood Forest in today's language, but originally called the Forest of the Shire, or the Shirewood Forest. And that puts a good date to it, 1161.
So, may I ask the question, how did you get hold of this manuscript? It's obviously not the original, because it's a modern kind of laying, but how did you receive this? Where did you get it from?
Yes, this came into my hands through the family. That is my adopted family, and it was passed down from one to another. My former relations lived in a cave of a type, but it was quite updated, as you imagine. And it gave me an opportunity to see how people lived at that time. And I was very grateful that among the paperwork that I sifted through, I found this particular document. It's quite thick in as I go through the pages.
Lots of information there.
And it's the story of how Robin the Hood came into the forest of Shirewood and eventually became the leader of the band. I would have to go through the document completely to show you all the ins and outs and how it all came into being.
But because you're looking at moving south, aren't you? Down to Gloucester as your main home now.
Yes.
And
of course, Sherwood Forest is up in the Midlands, in Nottinghamshire, the Shire of Nottingham, and therefore, although I've now settled down in Gloucester, the city of Gloucester, there are connections between the 2 points of interest. What the story tells is out in the year 1161, during the reign of the second Henry, two travellers travelled stained and mounted upon jaded steeds because they travelled some great distance as they made their way into the forest area of Nottinghamshire. It was on the evening in March, when the night was becoming chill and cold, that the wind came in sharp, fitful gusts, whistling now and again, singing through the young green leaves and making their presence known. The sun was in its last decline, and was sitting with a wild aspect, deep, and clouds clustered gloomily about it. And as soon as this became known, of course, we knew, or at least the travellers knew, that they were not far away from their destination. The travellers were sufficiently weather-wise to recognise the situation in which they found themselves. One of them, who rode in advance and appeared to be the superior as well as the elder of the small group, appeared and were soon enveloped in the darkening evening. The wind is increasing. I expect it will be a wild night, said Ritson. It looks threatening, my lord, replied Ritson. Our steeds were not so miserably fagged, for it would be somewhat serious to be benighted in this forest. I trust you will not cause to expect an occurrence so unpleasant, returned his companion. I imagined our journey was ready. At the close, you were the guide. You have not lost your direction or road, I hope. Oh no, said Ritson, but if it were not made proper progress before the sun finally sinks down out of sight and the storm comes up, I would likely to miss my road in the darkness as it was. I have nothing but a quick eye and an imperfect recollection to guide me. And yet we have journeyed in the right path, and with good steeds, a short hour's ride should take us to the Hood's cottage. See if you cannot lash the lazy beast of things into somewhat of a pace, explained his companion, spurring his horse. Surely my steed, although tired, lags not as this does this time. Ritson complied with his master's request, and the tired beast, under the influence of the whip and spur, cantered by as they went wearily along. This wind would rise considerably. It howled and moaned like the wail of a disquieted spirit, and the sun had already vanished, and the darkness had increased apace, while the vast trees, which even in the broad daylight shed a sombre hue around, now added to the gloom. Of hail began to fall, and foul weather was surely beginning to rapidly be released.
Well, Peter, I think that's the first chapter, isn't it?
Yes.
In this amazing story saga.
That's right.
Of the
of
times.
How Robin and his companion came to the forest.
Yeah.
It was quite a huge forest at that time, which spread right up into what we would call today into Yorkshire. In fact, if you could study the books that I've keenly read over the years, you get a picture something of this order. That although Robin was associated definitely with the Shirewood forest, he travelled some great distance. For example, he would go up to the Yorkshire moors and then onto the coastline, and he had a special vessel there, a ship of some nature and kind, which he used on rare occasions. The idea was that when the authorities from Nottingham, who were chasing after him and trying to capture him, when they became involved, of course it was an ideal situation to travel quickly up to the coastal area and take the ship that they had purchased and go out into the North Sea, and they had a route mapped out so that they would always elude people that were chasing after them. It's a very interesting story, really.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when time had passed and things had settled down, they would return again to the forest.
He was an exceptional character, wasn't he?
He was
Exceptional
an exceptional character. But he was quite young then. He was in his late teens, early 20s.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
How do you think Robin Hood would see the EU situation now? I know that's a loaded question, and we're down in the southwest.
He would certainly be on the side of the folk that stood up for righteousness and fair play and so on. That's why he won the hearts of the people, because he seemed so honest about his dealings. Yes, he was a thief and a robber in the eyes of the law, but he would always share his benefits and goods with the poorer members of society.
That's right.
And that's why he was honoured. I don't believe he ever kept anything much for himself.
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to be slightly cheeky, probably a bit naughty here, but I look at the government today that we have in this country in 2016. We've got a EU referendum vote coming up shortly, which is possibly being rigged against the people of this country. That's my personal view. But if we look at it, we've had moments in history, haven't we?
Yes.
Where certain people have risen to the challenge to do something exceptional. And there was a lady called Lady Houston, who was very wealthy, but her husband died, and she was a good 25 years younger than he was. Yes, he earned a lot of money, he was an entrepreneur, but the saying goes, or the story goes, had a vision, and that vision came together when she saw the planes, the Schneider Trophy and the German Goering say to her publicly, "You haven't seen anything yet," or something like that.
That's right.
And of course then there's this moment when the nation prayed, but she felt that she had to contribute a massive sum of money to get...
Yes, she did.
Yeah. And 500 Spitfires were created and made.
Yes.
And then handed over to the RAF.
Spitfire came from a background of being the most updated flying machine that was in service. And
we have a quick kind of...
Yes, have a quick...
Because Peter was in the RAF, but I don't think you were actually, unfortunately, a fighter pilot. You were on a down crew. Is that right? If I got that right?
Yes.
But you still have a part to play.
Oh yes, that came years later.
Yeah.
But it was all part of the saga of the British true character. And I'm not talking now about the Saxons and all the rest of them. No, it was true, the British character. Robin Hood, as far as I can remember, the details of studying his background and his service to the nation and so on, was an honest man.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
he wanted to let that be the guidance for bringing together a collection of men of similar standard that would be part of his troop, if I can use that word as well, a troop of people that were going to withstand anything that was contrary to what he practiced and believed. He wanted honesty, he wanted character, he wanted people to come and stand by him to rob the rich, if you like, and share it with the poor.
Yeah.
That's the sum total of it all, really.
And I think that's why a lot of people like the story,
Yeah,
for some reason.
that's right.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yes, his band grew, not locally in one area, but throughout the country, really. He was well known by then, and he was brought up in Mansfield Woodhouse and learnt the arts of archery and so on. And so he had other arrows to shoot, of course, and I remember on one occasion they decided to cheat their way into his company by inviting archers
That's right.
of repute to come together for a tournament in hopes that Robin would come amongst them and then they would be able to capture him. But it didn't work out quite as they expected on that occasion. And he was captured once or twice, but not without being released by his famous friends, the outlaws as they were called, Robin Hood and his outlaws,
Yeah.
and so on. And the book that I have is an ancient document.
Just hold it up in front of you there, mate. Yeah. That's it. We've got plenty of light on that, yeah.
It's an ancient document, and I don't know of any other copy in the country. It's come through my family, my adopted family, really, which was most remarkable. But that's the story of my life. The story of my life is that God has put me in a place where I can have this information. It's authentic, and the paperwork is very good. This book, for example, which we've just shown you, the writing, it can't be more perfect, and it's in unbroken English,
Yes.
which is wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, it smells like it's been written by somebody who
oh yes,
knew
well
stuff.
educated and well brought
yeah,
up and knowledgeable
Yeah.
of these things.
Well,
Yes.
we know one particular film producer that may well be wanting to have a chat with you and seeing what they can do.
Yes, Robin had this habit of changing their names
Yeah,
so that they could speak more familiarly to each other.
right.
For example, they were called men of Sherwood Forest, really, or Shirewood, Forest of Shire. But they'd be getting used to that.
Yeah,
But
because you said earlier on that actually it was John Little was the real name, but Robin Hood changed his name back to Little John
Little John. Yeah.
on the brook where they fight with the wooden stakes.
That's correct.
Is that
yeah.
right? Or the wooden, whatever you call them.
It was, if you like, to rename them with original names that was associated with their characters, which of course was something that happened in the scriptures and the Bible.
Yeah, exactly.
And so on. And I think he must have been an ardent reader of the scriptures that were available at that time. And that's how he became again associated to the common people, that they thought the world of him.
Well, whatever happens in the next 3 or 4 weeks, because obviously this referendum does mean something
Yes, of course it
to
does.
Britain,
It's of
and not just in English, yeah.
Because it's the end of a saga, and it's winding up what has happened since the date I first quoted you, which is mentioned, as I say in the document, 1161
Yeah.
was when Robin arrived in the forest. 1161. That's quite some years ago now.
Well, I must
isn't it?
admit, I remember as a lad
Yeah.
on a Saturday morning watching the Robin Hood series
Yeah.
I've just shown you my age, it doesn't matter, but I was always enthralled the way they got the arrows out and fired them, and they always no one seemed to die.
No.
They all fell down, but
They did.
but it's his.
But actually, when the outlaws, as they called, some people call them the
In-laws.
infamous in-laws, but when the outlaws eventually terminated their existence on Earth, they were buried in different places. And actually, Robin himself had not been well for a short while, and they decided to try and find out what the problem was, and they took him to a kind of nursing place, a nursing home, and examined him and so on, but they couldn't trace what the problem was as far as the writings go, and so they decided to do what they did in those days, to bleed him.
Really?
And so what they did, they bled Robin, but they overdid it on that occasion, and that resulted in his demise.
Really?
And his death. Yes.
Well, there you go.
Yes, it did. And of course, then came the problem of where they should bury his remains.
Yeah.
And that was a problem in a sense, because all the outlaws would have a general idea where he was being buried, and then they would have to try and work out where to conceal the body, because they didn't want a lot of folk digging around to try and find out where his body had been placed.
Sure.
And they succeeded in doing that in a simple way. And it was Robin's idea. He said, look, pass me my trustworthy bow and arrow, and I'll shoot an arrow into the forest. And they said that with strength he released this arrow, and they had to go and look for it and find where it had fallen, which they did, and eventually they found where it had fallen, and then they buried him there, right in the middle of the forest, from what I can gather. So it took quite a bit of searching after he'd fired but he wanted to do it himself, and he did it himself, and but no one was allowed to remember where and details about where his body was buried. That's why to this day. Now the other outlaws was quite different to that. They were laid to rest where they died, or where they passed away for some reason, because some were wounded, of course, in their conflicts with those in authority that were trying to find them and shoot them and kill them. And Hathersage comes to my mind, and Hathersage is in Derbyshire, and it was there where one of the followers of Robin Hood were laid to rest, Hathersage. I think, I'm not sure.
That lends itself to Lord Hathersage.
Yes.
That does.
I'm not sure whether it was Will Scarlett that was laid to rest at Hathersage, or one of the other disciples that followed Robin. But they were laid to rest in different places. My memory doesn't sound too well at the moment, serve me well at the moment, simply because I'm getting on in years. I'm in my 86th year now, and I have to try and recall the amount of literature I've studied.
Absolutely.
Because I'd love to produce a film, a true film of the Robin Hood story. You see, what has happened since those days, there have been about half a dozen films produced by the big companies.
Hollywood as well, I suppose. Yeah.
And although they are, of course, presented in such a way as to make the films enlightening and tempting to see again and again and again, they don't always tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes, that's right.
And I think this has been one of the problems until when my folk handed me this book, I thought, oh, bless me, we're a bit off beam with all this recording, and I'd love to build a story up, a film, of the exact things that happened, the conversations that were recorded between certain members of the Robin Hood band, and that would be a helpful stage forward in giving the average general public some more details, which I would call the true story of the Robin Hood era.
And not only Robin Hood, Peter, but possibly a film of your amazing life. And possibly a film to do with your amazing life and the things that have happened in your life.
Oh yes, I'll be very pleased to fill in details of my personal experiences.
We thank the Lord for all of this.
I omitted telling you that Robin and Maid Marian were eventually married.
Right.
In the Edwinstowe, we'd call it the Edwinstowe Parish Church today.
Yeah.
But then it was a very well-known place of worship, turning the clock back to 1100 and so on. But that's part of the story as well. But it's very intriguing because they did get married, and if you go to Edwinstowe in Nottinghamshire and find St. Mary's Church, you will find there some more details of which I've shared just a short description, and you'll find maybe some of the questions that you've got in your minds can be tidied up and sorted out to your satisfaction.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
That was really interesting, because we weren't planning to do any of that today. We weren't really planning to do any recording today, because we're looking forward to going down to
Yes, we shall.
St. Michaels Mount.
Let's look forward to the film itself,
Yeah.
which will come perhaps in two distinct stages. One where I do a sort of series of episodes, because the details are quite intriguing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I can quote from the writings, like the book that I have now, which is getting too tired and worn and weary. So while it's still readable, I can share some of the details from the booklet with you. But there are other writings as well that I have that are intriguing and very helpful to understand.
Good stuff. I think we'll have a little rest now. Well, you'll have a little rest.
Yeah.
And if the clouds are chased away, we should go out down to the sea or something later on. Okay.
Oh, good, yes. Because the time's marching on.
It is, yeah.
We're coming to the end of an era of great interest, which is not known by very many people in the United Kingdom.
Now, Peter has a website, and it's Peter Scothern. So that's Peter Scothern, Scothern.
That's correct.
Ministries.co.uk. And we've been helping Peter for close to 9 years, bring a lot of this amazing history, which links up to Britain's hidden history.
That's right.
To link with Joseph of Arimathea, our friend.
Oh, yes. Mustn't forget dear Joseph.
And quite a lot of other stuff. We might, if the weather is good, we might go down to Camelot.
Yeah.
And where's Camelot? We'll leave that with you.
I don't know a lot about Camelot, but this
we might take
the films
that's it,
that have been released about Camelot. Yes, because you see, you've got this continual, how can I put it, jogging for truth that surrounds one area in the Middle East, of course, that's Jerusalem and all that.
Yep.
And then you've got the Western approach, which we continually debate about, where things have happened this side of the world in the Western area of Europe, which are noticeable and very interesting too. Now, of course, I'll put a little bit of updated history in this. You see, what has transpired is that we have two locations. We have the Middle East and we have the Western Europe scene as well. And they seem to clash in a way, but they don't clash. It's that they enhance each other, but it's sorting them out and getting them in the right perspective, date-wise and geographically wise, and so that we can understand the whole story.
Now we've done this over almost 12 sessions now.
That's right, we have.
So we'll leave it with you folk who are listening to this to come into Peter's site or the KCTVMedia.com site, because that's where we have all the videoing and all the content that we could share for 1,000 years.
Seeing all this and recapturing it.
Exactly.
Because you can't remember all the details that have been laid before us. So don't hesitate to contact us.
I tell you what, let's go and get that Cornish pasty now, shall we?
Oh yes.
Okay. Catch you later.
It smells good.
Oh, it does. Very good.